First contact with fear. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the International Space Station Beta, her eyes fixed on the strange phenomenon that had appeared just beyond lunar orbit. It wasn't supposed to be there. A massive tear in space that shimmered like oil on water, defying every known law of physics. The emergency meeting of the United Earth Council was about to begin. And for once, every nation on the planet agreed on one thing. Whatever this was, it changed everything. Admiral, they're requesting your presence in the quantum comm chamber, Lieutenant Rodriguez announced, his voice steady despite the uncertainty in his eyes. Chen nodded, taking one last look at the spatial anomaly before following him through the station's curved corridors. The quantum comm chamber was packed with holographic projections of world leaders, scientists, and military commanders. But what caught Chen's attention was the additional presence, a towering ethereal being whose form seemed to shift like starlight through crystal. It called itself Ambassador Xalthor of the Galactic Concordat. Your world stands at a crossroads. The ambassador's words resonated directly in their minds, a translation technology far beyond human understanding at work. We have watched your species for centuries, documenting your wars, your struggles, your relentless drive to overcome. What we once saw as barbarism, we now recognize as your greatest strength. Chen felt the weight of history in that moment. Humanity's first contact wasn't a celebration of technological achievement or a peaceful exchange of knowledge. It was a desperate plea for help. The ambassador's form flickered as it projected images into the chamber. Entire solar systems vanishing into absolute darkness. Billions of lives extinguished in moments. A horror that devoured light itself, consuming everything in its path. The Galactic Concordat called it the Void Hunger. Our civilization spans millions of worlds, Xalthor continued. Yet we face extinction. We evolved in peace, advancing through cooperation and harmony. We have no concept of warfare, no understanding of the militant drive that defines your species. The Void Hunger has already consumed 30% of our territory. President Okafor of the African Union leaned forward in his holographic projection. Why come to us? Earth has barely established colonies on Mars. We're centuries behind your technology. The ambassador's form pulsed with what might have been respect or desperation, because you are Deathworlders. Your planet, which we classified as a level 12 hazard world, forged your species through constant adversity. Your gravity would crush my people. Your weather systems would tear us apart. Your predators would devour us. Yet you thrive here. Chen watched as understanding dawned on the faces around her. Humanity's harsh cradle, Earth itself, had prepared them for this moment. Every struggle for survival, every battle against the elements, every technological advancement driven by necessity. It had all been preparation for something bigger than themselves. The Void Hunger feeds on order and harmony. Xalthor explained. It cannot comprehend chaos, adaptation, the human concept of improvisation. Your military doctrine, your very nature as survivors of a death world, may be our only hope. The chamber erupted in discussion. Questions about technology transfer, military integration, the logistics of defending a galaxy. But Chen's mind was already racing with possibilities. Humanity had spent millennia fighting itself, but now they had a chance to turn that martial knowledge towards something greater, the protection of countless innocent species who had never needed to learn the art of war. We'll need to adapt our tactics for space warfare. Chen spoke, her voice cutting through the chaos. But more importantly, we'll need to teach your people how to fight. Not just with weapons, but with the will to survive that Earth burned into our DNA. The ambassador's form brightened. You would share your knowledge of warfare, even knowing our past prejudice against your species. President Okafor smiled, an expression that carried both warmth and steel. Ambassador, if there's one thing humans understand, it's fighting to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We've spent enough time fighting each other. Perhaps it's time we fought for something bigger. As the meeting continued into the night, Chen returned to the observation deck. The spatial tear still shimmered beyond the moon, but now it represented something different. Not just humanity's first contact with alien life, but their first chance to prove that the very traits that made them dangerous could make them the guardians the galaxy desperately needed. The void hunger was coming, but it was about to learn what happened when it threatened a species forged in the crucible of Earth, a species that had never learned to accept defeat. Humanity was going to war, not for conquest or resources, but to protect a galaxy that had once feared them. And they were going to teach that galaxy how to fight back. The warriors they never were. The Montana training facility sprawled across 10,000 acres of rugged terrain, its newly constructed alien-compatible habitats gleaming under the morning sun. Captain Maya Patel watched as her newest group of Concordat trainees attempted the basic obstacle course, their crystalline forms shimmering with effort under Earth's punishing gravity. "You're doing well. Keep pushing," she encouraged, though well was relative. What would have been a simple course for human recruits had become an epic challenge for beings evolved under 1/3 Earth gravity. But they were trying, and that meant everything. The Galactic Concordat had provided Earth with technological wonders beyond imagination. Quantum computers, faster than light drives, energy shields, gifts that had advanced human civilization by centuries overnight. In return, humanity had to teach them something far more fundamental: how to survive. A crystalline trainee stumbled, their form flickering with exhaustion. Maya rushed forward, helping them up. "Remember what we discussed about leveraging momentum. Your bodies are stronger than you think. You just need to learn to push past the discomfort." The concept of voluntary suffering remains difficult. The trainee, who called themselves Echo, managed to communicate through their translator. "In our culture, pain is only negative, but I begin to understand your species' philosophy of growth through adversity." Maya smiled, remembering her own basic training years ago. "Pain is information," she explained, using the mantra that had gotten her through the toughest days. "It tells you where your limits are and how to surpass them." Above them, the sky crackled as another Concordat ship entered atmosphere, bringing more technology and more trainees. The exchange program was operating at full speed now, 3 months after first contact. For every alien secret of the cosmos humanity learned, they taught another lesson in warfare and survival. In orbit, humanity's first FTL-capable warships were taking shape, ugly by Concordat standards, but powered by a combination of human ingenuity and alien technology. Admiral Chen had dubbed them the Guardian class, a name that embodied humanity's new role in the galaxy. Maya's comm unit chimed with a priority message. Her eyes widened as she read it. The void hunger had just consumed another system, this one only 50 light-years from Earth. They were running out of time. "Everyone gather round," she called to her trainees. The crystalline beings formed a circle, their forms still trembling from exertion. "What you're learning here isn't just about physical conditioning. It's about developing the mindset of a warrior, the will to stand and fight when every instinct tells you to run." She projected a hologram of the latest void hunger attack, courtesy of Concordat technology. The aliens watched in horror as their ancient enemy devoured another world. But this time, they didn't look away. "Progress. Your civilization achieved wonders through peace and cooperation," Maya continued. "You built a society we humans can only dream of. But peace isn't always an option. Sometimes you have to fight. Not for glory or conquest, but to protect everything you've built." In the distance, thunder rumbled. A storm was approaching, and Maya saw several of her trainees tense. They feared Earth's weather almost as much as they feared the void hunger. But fear could be overcome. Humanity had proven that countless times. "Today we're adding something new to your training," she announced. "During the storm, we're going to practice emergency operations. The void hunger doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Neither can we." To her surprise, Echo stepped forward. "We will try, Instructor Patel. As you say, discomfort is temporary. Extinction is permanent." Maya felt pride swell in her chest. They were learning, adapting, finding their own warrior spirit. It wasn't about turning these peaceful beings into mirror images of humanity. It was about helping them find their own strength, their own way to fight. In her office that evening, Maya filed her daily report to command. The storm had been brutal, but every single trainee had completed their tasks. They were slower than humans, more cautious, but they had refused to quit. The warrior spirit was there, just waiting to be awakened. Her computer chimed with an incoming message from Admiral Chen. New intelligence suggested the void hunger was accelerating its consumption of systems. The first joint human Concordat battle fleet would need to deploy within 2 months, ready or not. Maya looked out her window at the training grounds, where her trainees were now practicing with modified human weapons in the rain. They looked nothing like traditional soldiers, these crystalline beings who had never known war. But then again, the greatest warriors were often forged in unlikely crucibles. Humanity had spent its entire existence learning to fight and survive on a world that seemed designed to kill them. Now they would use those lessons to defend a galaxy of peaceful species who had never needed to learn them. The irony wasn't lost on Maya. That humanity's violent nature, long seen as their greatest flaw, might prove to be the galaxy's salvation. The storm raged on outside, but her trainees remained at their posts, each flash of lightning illuminating their determined forms. They were becoming something new, not quite human warriors, but not quite their old selves either. They were becoming protectors, guardians, the warriors they never knew they could be. And soon, very soon, the void hunger would learn what happened when you pushed peaceful beings too far. It would learn what happened when you gave warriors a reason to fight. Operation Earthborn Shield. The Guardian-class warship Defiant hung in the darkness of space, its hull a patchwork of human and Concordat technology. On the bridge, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as the combined fleet took formation. 30 human vessels, each retrofitted with alien tech, supported by 200 Concordat ships newly equipped with human-designed weapon systems. All ships report ready, Admiral, her XO, Commander James Rodriguez, announced. The same officer who had served with her on the space station during first contact was now her right hand in humanity's first interstellar war. Signal the fleet, Chen ordered. Operation Earthborn Shield begins now. The plan was audacious, perhaps even reckless by Concordat standards, but that was exactly why it might work. Intelligence suggested the void hunger was drawn to patterns and predictability. The Concordat's previous defensive strategies, perfectly ordered and logical, had played right into its strengths. So humanity had proposed something different: chaos. Controlled chaos, but chaos nonetheless. Launch fighter squadrons, Chen commanded. The newly christened Stinger-class fighters shot from their carriers, human pilots pushing alien technology to limits their creators had never imagined. Among them was Maya Patel, recently promoted to squadron leader after her success with the training program. Remember your training. Maya's voice crackled over the comm to her mixed squadron of human and Concordat pilots. Unpredictability is our ally. Fight like you were born to it, because you were. The void hunger appeared exactly where intelligence said it would. A writhing mass of darkness that seemed to eat the very starlight around it. But this time, instead of finding neat formations of Concordat ships waiting to be devoured, it encountered something entirely new. Human vessels charged straight at it, weapons blazing with modified kinetic rounds that carried cores of crystallized energy, combining Earth's brute force with Concordat precision. Fighter squadrons executed maneuvers that seemed suicidal, diving into the darkness only to emerge elsewhere, leaving trails of destructive energy in their wake. "It's responding differently," Echo observed from their station on the Defiance Bridge. The former trainee had insisted on serving alongside their human teachers. The entity appears, confused. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Confusion was exactly what they wanted. The void hunger had evolved to counter the precise, predictable patterns of Concordat warfare. It had never faced an enemy that embraced chaos as a strategy. But the entity was far from helpless. A tendril of darkness lashed out, consuming 3 Concordat ships before anyone could react. The loss of life hit Chen like a physical blow. These were her allies now, her responsibility. Squadron 7, move to protect the Concordat cruisers, she ordered. Maya, take your group and test that new weakness we found. Maya's squadron dove toward the point where the entity had taken damage during their previous skirmish. Their fighters carried prototype weapons designed by a human Concordat engineering team. Missiles that combined human explosive power with Concordat energy manipulation. For Earth and the Concordat. Maya's battle cry rang out as her squadron launched their payload. The missiles vanished into the darkness, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the void screamed. It was a sound that shouldn't have been possible in space, transmitted through some mechanism none of them understood. But every being in the fleet felt it. The void hunger recoiled, its massive form writhing in what could only be pain. All ships, concentrate fire on that sector, Chen commanded. Show this thing what happens when you threaten our allies. The battle that followed would be studied for generations to come. Human adaptability combined with Concordat technology created strategies the entity couldn't predict. When it tried to consume energy weapons, they switched to kinetic. When it adapted to physical attacks, they hit it with hybrid weapons it had never encountered. But victory came at a cost. The Defiant's hull groaned as another tendril of darkness struck it. Emergency force fields barely contained the breach. Admiral, Echo's voice carried an urgency their species rarely showed. The entity's movement patterns have changed. It's not just attacking anymore. It's learning. Chen watched as the void hunger began to mirror some of their tactics, its movements becoming more erratic. Of course, an entity that fed on patterns would eventually learn to break them. That's what we wanted, Chen revealed, earning surprised looks from her bridge crew. If it can learn, it can be taught. And humanity's greatest lesson has always been this. Some things are worth dying for. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, execute Protocol Omega. Maya, get your squadron clear. The Concordat vessels are your responsibility now. The human ships began moving into a new formation, but this time it wasn't random. They were creating a wall between the void hunger and the retreating Concordat fleet, a shield of earthborn steel and determination. Admiral, Rodriguez protested, the hull can't take another direct hit. It doesn't have to, Chen replied, her voice firm. It just has to hold long enough to teach this thing a lesson about humanity. We don't run when our friends are in danger. We stand and fight. The void hunger surged forward, but the line of human ships held firm. They had committed to this role, guardians of a galaxy that had never needed guardians before. And if this was to be their first lesson to the cosmos, they would make it one to remember. The darkness approached, and humanity stood ready to show the universe exactly why Earth was called a death world. The price of protection. The medical bay of the Concordat flagship Eternal Light hummed with activity as both human and alien healers worked to save lives. Maya Patil sat beside Admiral Chen's bed, watching the nanomedicine slowly repair the damage done when the Defiance bridge had partially decompressed. The Admiral's sacrifice had saved the Concordat fleet, but the cost had been steep. The casualty reports are in, Commander Rodriguez said softly from the doorway. 12 human ships lost with all hands. 43 Concordat vessels destroyed. But we succeeded. The void hunger retreated from the sector. Maya nodded silently. Success felt hollow when measured against so many lives lost. Yet something unprecedented had happened during the battle, something that changed everything they thought they knew about their enemy. It learned from us, Echo observed, their crystalline form dimmed with what Maya had come to recognize as grief. The former trainee had refused to leave the medical bay, maintaining a vigil over their human comrades. But in learning Arcados, it became vulnerable to order. The revelation had come at the very end of the battle. As the human ships held their sacrificial line, The Void Hunger had attempted to mirror their chaotic tactics. In doing so, it had momentarily developed a pattern of its own, one that the Concordat ships, with their precise energy weapons, had been able to exploit. The next battle will be different. Chen spoke suddenly, her voice weak but determined. It won't fall for the same trick twice. We need to evolve our tactics faster than it can adapt. Maya thought about her fighter squadron, now a mix of human daredevils and Concordat precision pilots. They had started teaching each other, creating a hybrid style of combat that was neither purely human nor purely alien. Perhaps that was the key. "Admiral," a new voice called. Ambassador Xalthor entered the medical bay, their form radiant with an emotion that took Maya a moment to identify. "Hope. The Concordat Council has reviewed the battle data. They wish to implement immediate changes to our military doctrine." Chen managed a small smile. They're finally ready to embrace their inner warriors. "No," Xalthor replied, surprising them all. "They wish to embrace what we should have been all along, protectors. The battle showed us that neither pure chaos nor pure order is the answer. We must find balance, as your species has done." Maya remembered her training days, teaching the Concordat beings how to fight. She had thought she was teaching them to be more like humans, but perhaps she had been helping them discover something that was within them all along. The medical bay's view screen showed the ongoing repairs to the fleet. Human engineering crews worked alongside Concordat technicians, combining their knowledge to create something stronger than either could achieve alone. Nearby, a group of Concordat medical officers study human emergency field techniques, while human doctors learn to use alien healing technology. "We're changing each other," Maya realized aloud. "This war isn't just about survival anymore. It's about evolution, not just fighting the darkness, but growing beyond what either of our species thought possible." Chen attempted to sit up, and Maya quickly helped her. The Admiral's eyes were fixed on the distant stars visible through the medical bay's window. "The Void Hunger thinks it can adapt to us, learn our ways, but it doesn't understand what it's dealing with. Humanity didn't become strong by staying the same. We grew stronger with every challenge, every setback, every loss." Echo moved closer, their crystalline form brightening. "The entity feeds on patterns, yet it created a pattern of its own when it tried to mimic your tactics. Perhaps that is not the only weakness we can exploit." "The training program," Maya said suddenly, an idea forming. "What if we expanded it? Not just teaching combat, but learning from each other. The Concordat's precision, humanity's adaptability. If we can combine them in ways the Void Hunger can't predict, it would face an enemy that evolves faster than it can adapt." Rodriguez finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. Ambassador Xalthor's form pulsed with excitement. "Our scientists have already begun analyzing the hybrid weapons that proved effective. If we apply the same principle to our tactics, our technology, our very way of thinking, then we create something entirely new," Chen concluded, "something that's greater than the sum of its parts." She turned to Maya. "Captain Patel, I'm promoting you to colonel. I want you to oversee the expanded training program. Teach them everything, not just how to fight, but how to adapt, how to overcome, how to protect." Maya straightened, feeling the weight of the responsibility. "Yes, Admiral. But what about the Void Hunger? Intelligence suggests it's regrouping, possibly preparing for a larger assault." "Let it come," Chen said, her voice stronger now. "Every battle teaches us more about our enemy, and more about ourselves. We've proven that humans and the Concordat can work together. Now it's time to show the universe what we can become when we fight for something bigger than survival." Outside the medical bay's window, a new ship took shape in the construction yards. A vessel that was neither human nor Concordat in design, but something entirely new. Its hull gleamed with the silvery grace of alien technology, while maintaining the practical functionality of human engineering. They had paid a heavy price for their first victory, but that price had bought them something priceless. Understanding. The Void Hunger could learn their tactics, but it could never learn what truly made them strong: the ability to grow, to change, to become more than they were. The next battle was coming, but this time they would meet it not as two separate species fighting side by side, but as something new, a force that combined the best of both worlds, ready to protect a galaxy it was learning to protect itself. The combined fleet assembled near the Arcturus system was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 3,000 ships strong, each vessel represented the perfect fusion of human and Concordat technology. At their heart was the newly commissioned flagship Dawn's Guardian, its revolutionary design a testament to what two species could achieve together. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge, fully recovered from her injuries, surveying the tactical display. 6 months of preparation had led to this moment. The void hunger had been consuming systems at an accelerating rate, but now it faced an enemy evolved beyond its understanding. All battle groups report ready, Colonel Maya Patel announced from her station. Her fighter squadrons had become the epitome of the new hybrid warfare doctrine, human courage tempered by Concordat precision. The entity approaches, Echo added, now serving as the fleet's tactical advisor. Their crystalline form had developed unique patterns, signs of stress and combat experience that would have been unthinkable in their species before Earth's influence. Chen opened a channel to the entire fleet. We all know what's at stake. Every drill, every innovation, every loss has led us to this moment. The void hunger thinks it knows what we are, thinks it can adapt to our tactics. Today, we prove it wrong. The entity emerged from hyperspace like a tear in reality itself, larger than they had ever seen it. It had grown stronger, feeding on the systems it had consumed. But so had they. Execute Operation Phoenix, Chen commanded. The fleet split into formations that seemed random but followed complex mathematical patterns developed by joint human Concordat think tanks. Fighter squadrons led by Maya launched in waves, their attack vectors constantly shifting based on quantum calculations that even the void hunger's adaptive intelligence couldn't predict. The entity struck first, tendrils of darkness reaching for the fleet. But where once there had been fear, now there was readiness. Concordat ships performed maneuvers that would have been impossible 6 months ago, their crews having learned that precision could serve aggression as well as defense. Multiple hits confirmed, Maya reported as her squadron struck with their new weapons, devices that combined human nuclear physics with Concordat energy manipulation, creating localized ruptures in the entity's form. The void hunger recoiled, attempting to adapt. It shifted its tactics, trying to mirror their attacks as it had done before. But this time, the fleet was ready. Now, Chen ordered. The seemingly chaotic formation suddenly snapped into perfect geometric patterns. Human ships executed precise Concordat maneuvers, while Concordat vessels embraced controlled chaos. The entity, caught between attempting to adapt to both strategies, found itself trapped in its own evolution. It's working, Echo announced, their form brightening with excitement. The entity's cohesion is destabilizing. But victory wouldn't come easily. The void hunger lashed out with desperate fury, its attacks becoming truly random as its patterns broke down. A massive tendril of darkness struck the Dawn's Guardian, energy shields flaring as they barely held. Hull breach on decks 5 through 8, Rodriguez reported. Emergency containment holding. Chen gripped her command chair as the ship shuddered. Maya, lead your squadrons into the breach. Echo, coordinate with the Concordat battle groups. Time to show this thing what happens when you push two species to their limits. Maya's voice crackled over the comm as her fighters dove into the darkness. Remember your training. We are the Guardians now, all of us. The battle reached its crescendo. Human determination and Concordat precision wove together into a symphony of destruction, each species complementing the other's strengths. The void hunger, for the first time in its ancient existence, found itself truly outmatched. Entity cohesion at 30%, Echo reported. We found its critical point. Chen leaned forward. All ships, execute final phase. Maya, Get your squadrons clear. Echo, signal the Concordat fleet. The Dawn's Guardian moved forward, leading the final charge. The ship's hybrid core began to pulse with energy as it activated its ultimate weapon, a device that represented the pinnacle of human Concordat cooperation. "Ready on your command, Admiral," Rodriguez said quietly. Chen took a deep breath, thinking of everything that had led to this moment. Earth's first contact, the training programs, the lives lost and the bonds forged. Two species, once separated by their fundamental natures, now united in defense of all life. For Earth, for the Concordat, for every species that chooses protection over consumption. Fire. The Dawn's Guardian's weapon activated, releasing a wave of energy that defied conventional physics. It was chaos and order combined, a force that the Void Hunger couldn't adapt to because it couldn't understand the cooperation that had created it. The entity's form began to unravel, its darkness giving way to light. As it died, it released one final psychic scream, not of anger or hatred, but of confusion. It had evolved to consume civilizations that followed patterns, never imagining it would face species capable of transcending their own nature. In the aftermath, as repair crews worked and medical ships tended to the wounded, Chen stood at the observation deck with Maya and Echo. The space where the Void Hunger had been now shimmered with newborn stars, as if the universe itself was celebrating their victory. "We did it," Maya said softly. "But what now? What happens to the warriors when the war is over?" Echo's form pulsed gently. "We become what we were always meant to be. Guardians of peace who remember the price of protection. Our species will never forget what Earth taught us, nor what we discovered about ourselves." Chen smiled, watching human and Concordat ships working together to help damaged vessels. This was never just about defeating the Void Hunger. It was about proving that strength comes in many forms, that cooperation can overcome any obstacle, and that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying an enemy, but in becoming something greater than we ever imagined. Maya finished. The stars continued to shine, bearing witness to a new chapter in galactic history. Humanity had begun its journey as feared Deathworlders, evolved into teachers, and emerged as partners in a grand alliance. The Concordat had transcended their peaceful limitations without losing their essential nature. Together, they had become the guardians the galaxy needed, proof that when the universe begs for help, the combined strength of unlikely allies can accomplish the impossible.